Hi, Dr. Elva Edwards from HealingChildhoodLoss.com, and I'm in the middle of a series of talking a little bit each week about one of the ways in which you lose a parent when you're a child. And one of the ways is adoption. And this one is really close to my heart because these people lose a parent and gain a parent. But we know from people that we know, friends, maybe people we've heard about or read about in People magazine, that kind of thing, that there is this internal desire for most people to know who their birth parents were, even if they don't have a continued relationship with them. I'm old enough that I know people who adopted a child and now that child is grown. And I have to say, I've never seen where people didn't really love that child and want that child so badly. I'd say probably as much as people now who are wanting a child trying to make a baby, right? And yet it doesn't always turn out perfect. Not that when you're not adopted, that doesn't always turn out perfect either. But today I wanted to talk just a little bit about the issues that adopted children have. You see, the parent is so thrilled, so excited, loves that baby. But what about the baby? The baby has been inside a mother who's chosen to give the baby up. Now, maybe the mother is conflicted about that. So that child feels that conflict, right? That child is in that mother for 9 months. Maybe there was problems with the father and mother's relationships. That creates emotional disturbance. The child feels that. We can kind of compare it to, let's say, someone who today, is wanting to have a baby and they're trying to have a baby and they get pregnant and they're excited and they're happy and, it's probably the 9 months of waiting for that baby might be part of the happiest times in their life because they're so anticipating that baby. But think about the mother of someone who is put up for adoption. That mother is conflicted or she doesn't want the baby, one or the other. And so that child feels that. I was told recently that there is research that says that a child can feel in the womb that he's being rejected. Now, I don't have the research for that, but I do the NET with people, and I know a lot goes on at conception, a whole lot. Now, just a little bit about how that baby feels in the womb. Just remember that baby gets, whether the mother wants that baby or not, they get attached. And the way they get attached is, if you haven't heard me say before, is that when the mother is speaking, just like I'm speaking right now, all of the vibration from my voice goes through my body and it's really carried through my bone. So if I had a child in the womb right now, that child would hear my voice, and over 9 months of listening to me, they get attached. That's one of the ways that the child becomes attached. And then when they are birthed, there's this disconnect, assuming the child is given up for adoption at birth. There is this disconnect from that voice. And that's one of the things that when people who adopt nowadays might want to reprogram into that child is that adoptive mother's voice, so that they can be, we want to imprint, right? We want to imprint that baby with things that the adoptive mother would say to that child. And so, you have to remember that adopted child is in that womb for 9 months. And we've talked about how important those 9 months are. Even if after he is born, he's put in the hands of these people who love him or her to the moon and back. There is still that beginning imprint. And so for all the people that you may know or have heard about who go and look for their birth parent, that's why. Now, many times they go and find the birth parent and go, that was enough, I don't need that anymore. But their curiosity was satisfied. And so a lot of times, even when that adopted parent has been very good for the child, there's a deep longing. And there's also the problem that I had, the same problem I had with my grandparents, because in some ways I feel a lot like an adopted child, because my grandparents took me as their own. There wasn't any other influence, nobody could say, well, that's not your kid. Like often today, people leave their child at the grandparents and then go back and get them, that kind of thing. I was more like an adopted child. It doesn't mean I didn't think about, my parents. And an adopted child, when they find out they're adopted and realize that they were given up, they wonder why. And just like with me, thinking it had to do with me, right? It didn't have to do with a car accident. It didn't have to do with injuries, that kind of thing. It had to do with, there was something about me that was wrong. And oftentimes a child thinks that. It usually has nothing to do with the child, as the circumstances, position the parents are in. And that many times adoption is a gift to a child, that to give a home that is ready for a baby when they in fact aren't. So I really, I get chills really just talking about adoption, because I think it is such an act of love, such an act of love. But every adoptive parent tells me, oh, I got a lot more back from them than I ever gave them. It's that kind of exchange. So if you are adopted, or you know someone who's adopted and struggling, please go through my classes and see if that won't help you. I'll see you next week.